What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out to Abraham Muhammad, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Billy Highvault, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As The Earth, Chow Yun Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Wayne Foster, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik86, Jeranism, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Matt, Nagara, Naibai, Qatar Craig, Reinhardt, Renee, Sally Ballas, Silver Umbrella, Skeptic936, Texas Mike, The Flat Earth Sun, Moon and Zodiac Clock App, theflatearthchannel.com, Tina Baker and Tom Herkins. So a massive shout out to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, I do believe we've got a few guests in both Discord and G Plus panel. So first of all, hello Paul, hello Righteous, good to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, and I'll raise the mic
on would say
Discord
nature,
as well.
because they don't want to say God. That's the only reason they say it. But now if you say there's an all-being God who created everything, worked the way it is, the first law and the second law, then God created nature. There is no mother nature or father nature, depending which way someone wants to refer to it. An all-knowing being created everything as is. But people who want to say there is no all-knowing being have to get rid of God. So what's left? The creation itself. So what do we call that? Oh, let's call it Mother Nature. The only thing is, zero can't create anything. Nothing can't create anything. You can't have the effect be more complex than the cause.
Morning, Tathman.
Hey, I couldn't get on the Hangouts.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, I guess, since you're in Discord.
I guess we got that figured out, right?
Yeah.
Hang on.
What
Leave it to a ball. Leave it to a baller. We'll be discussing it for 3 days.
I think you need to give up Apple and go to Android. That's what I think, but that's just me.
Samsung all the way.
Samsung all the way. Yeah, was he happy when he got to work, though? No?
What do you mean, happy when you go to work?
Yeah, Sam sung all the way. Was he happy when he got to work?
Well, my name's not Sam, so.
Oh, I guess it's too early for you guys.
Yeah, I get it now. Sorry, I'm a bit slow.
It's all right.
Yeah, you have to forget. I work nights, you see, so I'm not long awake. So you have to forgive me.
It's all right. It's real early here in the morning, but when you said it, just boom, it was right there for me. It's all no biggie.
It was the same yesterday. We were talking about mass attracting mass and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you know how these conversations get really serious sometimes, yeah. And I'm like, well, it doesn't always have to be so serious, yeah.
I agree.
So I said, here is evidence, right, for mass attracting mass, right? My girlfriend's a big girl, yeah, and I'm very attracted to her. So is that not mass attracting mass?
I, I like the joke. It's funny.
The funny thing is, you can't even argue against it either, can you?
You just laugh. You just laugh. That's all.
Well, that's it. And
Yeah.
and sometimes these things have to be said. Obviously, when my girlfriend's not around, but because she'd kill me. But
Oh gosh.
You
these
can
things have to
argue.
be said.
You can argue against it, though.
Oh come on. We're just having fun here.
Yeah, but you can still keep having fun, but you can argue against it.
All right. Go ahead. Let's see.
Well, a fat man can love a skinny woman,
Yeah,
and vice versa.
that's true.
Yeah,
But
well,
then it wouldn't be.
I'm not.
But then it wouldn't be fun, and it wouldn't be in the topic of mass attracting mass, which is this is a joke about it. That's all.
But usually the idea is that the mass has to be stronger,
No, that's
i.e.
the
the
whole.
sun.
Yeah, that's the whole point. I don't believe mass attracts mass, but I could laugh at the joke without getting serious about it.
Yeah. I mean, humor in this situation is essential. I agree.
Oh, yeah, I do too. Like Samsung, like when he said Samsung, I said, was he happy going to work? And then immediately I went to another thing. What's another brand we could bring in there? Sony, right? Sony, Sony, the Japanese brand as well. So Samsung sang all the way with his Sony with him. Corny and stupid, but funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell have we started?
Well, you know what his name was, right? Phillips.
Oh my god! And his surname could have been X.
What do you think? What do you think the chances are in the future of flat earthers and globers and ball earthers working together?
None.
Really?
Not unless it's just the way Highlander and I are just having fun.
Yeah.
Because they're just opposing views.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. And at the end of the day, that's all it is. It's we're here just talking about our views, nothing else.
Yeah, but they both can't be right. One either they're both wrong or one is a lie.
Yeah, but that's why we come here to listen and to talk to each other about the opposing views.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know?
But I do take it seriously because either I am following a lie or the Globers are following a lie or we're both following a lie. So it is a serious subject to me, but at the same time, as I learn the arguments and the questions that are proper to ask at certain points, you take the edge off by having a little fun.
Exactly. And the thing is, it doesn't matter which side is right or which side is wrong, right?
But it does.
I mean,
does. That's why I'm here, because it does matter. Because
the thing is,
they're lying to us,
let's
Highlander.
let's say your side is right and my side, I'm following a lie, right? But at this point in time, I don't know it's a lie, and I don't believe it's a lie. So for me, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but here's the problem. Whether you know it's a lie or don't know it's a lie, you don't want to be lied to about anything. You want the truth. So, if there was no ramifications to knowing or not knowing, you might have a point. But there are ramifications, and they're huge.
Well said.
Yeah, if it's an argument about the tooth fairy, it don't matter because it's make believe. Someone wants to believe it, they have had it. There are no ramifications if you believe or don't believe in the tooth fairy.
No, I think you really succinctly really nailed that then. That was eloquent.
Well, thank you. It's just I value value. I guess. I mean that's redundant, but truth is paramount to me.
Yeah.
The thing is, let's just say that the governments or the people in power, the people that control everything, turn around and say, right, okay, the earth is flat and you have been lied to all this time. Yeah. I can't actually think of any aspect of my life that is actually going to change. It wouldn't affect the job that I do, the work that I do, and the money I make, and the way I live my life.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying as you are confined to not believing that a God would design a flat Earth, a God would design your existence, and that the whole goal of you being alive is to know this God. If you want to excuse that and just say you're from evolution, which is a joke, nothing from nothing, but let's just assume that's what you say for the sake of this argument, then yeah, you're just here and gone, and there's nothing afterwards. But if you're not here and gone, and there's a judgment day awaiting you, I don't think you would feel this way. You'd want to know exactly why you were born, who you are, who is God, what's your purpose. These are all questions we had as kids, and this is what they're trying to hide.
I mean,
Anthony,
I don't believe in God, but I think that come at the end of your life, you will find out the answers to these questions anyway.
yeah, but it's too late then. Anthony Flew, the noted atheist in a debate show, and I shared this once before, said that the reason he doesn't believe in God and was a stated atheist and wrote books about it and went speaking on tour and did debates with creationists and so forth, and Christians, was because if the Bible was true, the Earth would be flat. So to me, the most noted atheist in the 19th century was an atheist because the lie, the heliocentric lie, I think that's pretty profound. How many people did he lie to because he was lied to?
Can I
Here's
ask
thing for you, Ken.
Highlander a question?
Hang on. Paul, just let Highlander finish and then Paul go on.
No, let Paul go. What were you going to say, Paul?
Have you ever heard of Pascal's wager, Highlander?
No.
Pascal's wager kind of goes. I hope I don't butcher this, but let's say God doesn't exist, but I believe that He does, and I spend my life trying to do good things. Okay. At the end of my life, if there's no God, then I've just done good things. Okay. Now, the other side of the coin is this: if God exists, and I do good, and I don't do good things, the price at the end is huge. So whether God exists or doesn't exist, it actually behooves you to believe in Him, because at the end, if He exists, you're going to have to face Him to begin with. So it's actually better to believe in a being, God, and we can get into the details of who this being is at some point. But Pascal's wager says it's actually better for you to hedge your bets, basically, that God exists.
Now, I would.
The argument that it is one's own best interest to behave as if God exists, since the possibility of external punishment in hell outweighs any advantage in believing otherwise. Pascal's wager.
Yeah, you did it better than I did, Nathan. I sometimes butcher it.
Yeah, now I would say Pascal's wager came from a different, how can I put it, viewpoint or context. I would say that since God exists, He wants you to find Him. And all you have to do is ask, and you will. It has nothing to do with just in case He exists. My frame of reference is that He does exist and He does want you to find Him. And so go find Him, go challenge Him, go ask Him to reveal Himself to you with all your heart, not in a how people say, well, I prayed and he didn't answer. Well, I can already tell by your attitude that you weren't really seeking, you weren't acting like the clay to the potter. You were acting the potter, except you're clay. So don't talk back to the potter that way. Ask the potter to form you into a proper vessel, and he will.
And there's typically an assumption, too, that God doesn't have our best interest at heart. He's wanting to take something from us. He wants to stop us from doing something. But if he's a loving God and creator, then he wants what's best for us. And we have to ask him what that is. And honestly, we can't do it ourselves because we didn't make ourselves. He did. He knows what's best because he made us.
Well, he's either involved in this creation or he just made us and went off somewhere, right? If he's involved in his creation, he's got a plan for us to know him.
Well, I think if there is a God, then he created us, and then he's either just sitting back watching or went off somewhere else, because there's too many nasty things happen that he could have stepped in and intervened and stopped that from happening. Hence why they give us free will.
Do you want free will, or do you want him to stop everything?
See, that's a tough choice. I mean,
well, you want to be a robot? You want to be a robot, or do you want to be you?
I mean,
how tough is
that
choice?
Well, I mean, if I said to you, right, you're now, here's your choice, right? You can be a robot and have no free will, and I will take away all the suffering from every child that's ever been hurt, that women will never be raped again, things like that will disappear. Or these, all that nasty and evil stuff will stay in the world, but you can have free will.
How about if all the nasty, evil stuff's in the world and you choose the same evil and don't choose for the good? What does that say about you?
I've got something along those lines. Whenever you respond to that, I'm going to ask him a question.
Well, hang on, I got a follow-up for that too. So God is love, the Bible says, Highlander. How can you have love with a robot? It can't be returned properly if it's a robot. And evil is a privation of good. There's no evil. There's always good. God is good. Everything's good. Except when you bring free will, there's a privation, a reduction of the good. Can't even have evil without good. And so the free will that you love right now and you exercise every time you're on this show, you say you want to give that up?
Well, I wouldn't say that I would want to give that up. I'm just saying that I don't think it would be an easy choice to make.
How about if God is looking for those who are looking for him and allows free will, and because privation of good, evil, people do bad things to people, and God allows that to be part of the scenario, and you get to choose which side you're going to be on that. And there's your choice. But you would say, if I was God, I wouldn't do it that way. Well, you're not, and neither am I. It still doesn't back up your evolution and Mother Nature, because you can't have everything coming from nothing.
And also, if evolution is...
Go on, Paul.
Hold on, Paul. Hold on. Just let him respond. I haven't forgotten that you're next. Go ahead, Highlander.
No, I'm I'm not disagreeing with what 10th Man says. It's just, I mean, I can see how I mean, I see 10th man's point, yeah, but I'm not a man of God, so it's,
Why? Why?
Hold on, Meryl. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, the couple things I was going to say about the nature of evil in the world that we see, and then I think, two related topics. And Nathan, if I get this wrong regarding what happened in England, you can correct me. But I think during the World War II, the Allies had broken the code of the Germans, and they had discovered that
Yeah.
they were going to bomb cities in England, a certain city in England, and if they evacuated the city, the Germans would have known that the Allies had broken the code, and they would have changed the code. But the Allies were preparing for D-Day. They were preparing for a time to go and invade into Europe. So England, I think Churchill allowed that city to be bombed and not evacuated because he knew the greater good. Now, if God is a good God, he would, even all the evil in the world, he can see the greater good that can come from it. Example, where is love fully expressed? In a good setting, easy setting, or in a hard setting? Like if the Bible says that while we were yet sinners, Christ died. He didn't wait for us to become good. He didn't wait for us to be all fixed up and then come and die for us. He saw us messed up, wretched, horrible, bad, and then he came and entered the world and died. And love itself and forgiveness can only be truly shown to its fullest extent in hardship and pain, suffering. So I think that's to me why I think I see evil in the world, because I think God sees a greater good that he can bring from it than we see. We see only a very limited viewpoint, but God sees the bigger picture than we do.
Okay. Meryl,
If I could add,
just before you do 10th, you asked why? I didn't know what you were asking why to, Meryl, but go ahead.
I'm interested in why some people would believe in God and potentially not. Like, did something happen?
You're asking Highlander.
Because some people do seem to have a faith that there is something overseeing everything that sees beyond the human perspective. We might get caught in, the dishes, or there not being petrol in the car, or you didn't pay me on time. Whereas this higher intelligence might see beyond that. You know what I'm saying? We get caught in the petty things.
Fair enough. Is there anything else on this? Because there's something specific that Highlander said right at the beginning of this conversation. It's completely off topic, but is there anything else to add?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just wrap it up unless Highlander's going to answer Meryl. Okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can summarize it. And then the first sin and the first one to fall was Lucifer, one of the archangels. And a third of the angels followed him. And they were immediately cast down from heaven. Now, they do not have a chance for salvation. The cross and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ does not count for angels. God decided to make a human family, not an angelic family. He already had that. And the fallen angels, led by Lucifer, want to destroy God's human family, just like the angelic family was separated. And they were successful. And God says, in Genesis, through the seed of the woman, bruise the heel, crush the head, the first prophecy. But I'm going to save this human family. I'm going to become a human myself and pay the price for this sin. And the only reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to redeem them. Whereas that redemption doesn't apply to angels. Angels can never be redeemed. They're going to hell forever, the lake of fire, all that. But God is using everything in order for the human family to make a decision. And here's the free will. Will you go this way or will you go that way? With everything in front of you, where are you going to go? And it will always display who you are. In the hardest of times, we always display who we are. So God's looking for the heart that's looking for him. All you got to do is ask. That's all he says. You don't You don't have to go to the ends of wherever to find him. Just wherever you are, just ask, and he will reveal himself. So I'll finish with that.
Okay. You still there, Highlander? Thank you, 10th man.
What the Bible says
Yeah.
about
Okay. You're not going to get grilling on this, by the way, just so you're forewarned. You're not going to. I'm just interested, and my question's going to be twofold in regards to a statement you made. So you said, all we have are our views. So, views, plural, presumably, if I paraphrase that slightly. All you have or I have is our view. My question is, first and foremost, what do you understand the meaning of the word view to be? And what was the context when you said that? What did you mean?
When I said that, I was mainly referring to like your introduction. You know, when you say, you know, come on the show and express your view and your opinions on, you know, the nature, the shape of the earth. You know, that's all.
Okay. And what about the second part? What do you understand the word view to mean?
Just basically the way I see things, or the way you see things, or the way 10th man sees things. You know,
Okay.
that's my idea of someone's view.
So the etymology is from Anglo-Norman French, view, female past participle of vier or see. That's the bit I'm interested in. That's the etymology. But if you actually look at the definition, it's got quite a few meanings, which I didn't really appreciate until you said it. And I thought I'll just look it up and see what it actually says. I'm just going to read it out verbatim. So start with the noun, which is how you used it. So number one, the ability to see something or to be seen from a particular place. That's the first. I won't go into any. Yeah, I'll just stick to the raw definitions, right? So number one, the ability to see something or be seen from a particular place. Number two, a sight or prospect typically of attractive natural scenery that can be taken in by the eye from a particular place. So a sight or prospect typically of attractive natural scenery that can be taken in by the eye from a particular place. And then lastly, and this is the one I'm the most interested in, because this is how language is kind of, not, I don't want to use the word deceptive, that's probably the wrong word, but a particular way of considering or regarding something, and an attitude or opinion. So I'll just read that once more. A particular way of considering or regarding something, an attitude or an opinion. It also goes into the verbs look or inspect, regarding in particular light or with a particular attitude. So again, even in the verbiage, you've still got the same juxtaposition between two very contrasting things. So number one, look at or inspect, and then number two, regard in a particular light or with a particular attitude. So your view on things might not necessarily be the view of things. So as an example, and I trimmed out our conversation in this regard because I got very passionate about it, and this is started off as a much more light-hearted show. When we're talking about the clock at 20 miles, that's our view and can be regarded in that context. It's just my view of something. Oil rig clock, Chicago, doesn't matter, but of something, my actual view, what can be seen by the eye. Whereas in your, and I speak generally about the religion of heliocentrism, it's not a view anymore, it's a view, a way of considering or regarding something that is actually a view. So the two things have got the same word, one meaning an opinion about how you believe you are perceiving something or believe the way the world works, the other being an actual representation of what you see with your eye. A view and a view, right? Just a very interesting turn of phrase, Highlander. I thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I could have put that better myself. That was, yeah,
Perfect. We'll start the live show now.
but that was quite well put.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Righteous Force, Jibby Jedi, Paul Hall, Chocolate Saiyan, and 10th Man in G+. Good to have you all.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good day, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning, and hello to everyone in the Discord server as well. Very good to have you all.
Morning.
Hello.
Hello, and hello, Arwin, who's just joined us in time for an introduction. Good to have you.
Hello.
Hello. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from LA.
Nowhere.
Oh, the levels of enthusiasm are amazing.
Not from Middle Earth.
Middle Earth?
Think about it.
Got the hobbits not out looking for Earth curve and using hijacking perspective calculators now.
No. They navigate a flat world, yeah.
All right.
Well, hobbits would still object though because they live in hills, so everywhere they look, it's always curved.
Can we stop talking about Narnia or Middle Earth or anywhere else, outer space? All of these places don't exist. So let's not have any talk of places that aren't real. It's just nonsense. Keep your Star Trek and your Middle Earth and your Narnia. Not interested.
But hobbits being short understand the limited angle better. So obviously they think it's fine.
They got a smaller angular resolution a bit.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for them, it's always not as much over the horizon as over that hill. So
Over that very short bush.
Who do you
That is
saying's
not,
over
yes.
the hill, Arvin?
Like Kate Bush.
Kate Bush. Anyway, less talk of Bush. More talk of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. Any evidence of that?
No axial rotation.
No?
Can I go back to curvature?
axis
Yeah,
of
of course
what?
you can. Go ahead.
I'm not sure I understand the globe claim completely. Especially, like if they're going to adhere to special relativity, they can't go and claim curvature in the same breath.
I don't understand that.
Nathan?
Say again, Arwin?
Nathan, your chat is stuck again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Thought it was a bit quiet in there. You'll have to explain that a bit further. Is it John?
Yeah, like everything I've learned about special relativity so far is it's kind of where the Flat Earth Society gets their whole pancake in a infinitely expanding universe or whatever, but it's flying upwards. I think they get that from special relativity.
Okay.
Well, it's a similarity in the story, right? Because even Brian Cox, I've heard, describe Einstein's relativity as the Earth actually moving up to meet the apple, as opposed to the apple falling down to the Earth. So yeah, it is kind of like the same crap, the same shitty narrative. Funny though,
But
right?
I don't
They make
understand
fun
how
of
they.
flat Earth society, but that's part of their narrative. Brian Cox is on their side saying things like that. So yeah, you're right. It's a little weird.
Right. But he's right. Like, I don't understand where these globers are saying they're getting pictures of curvature when their own priests are telling them.
Well, they don't actually have pics of curvature. They just present, boats being obstructed, disappearing into the horizon, and say that that's due to curvature. But they don't actually show us curvature. When it is, it's usually some type of fisheye or some nonsense picture or image from a medium that doesn't actually exist. So, problems everywhere.
Right. No, I understand that. I'm just saying they say it's curvature, but they shouldn't be saying it's curvature. They should be dropping that entire argument. I don't understand why they're even sticking.
Because
they think they live on a ball. So
Precisely.
everything has to be curvature.
Have you ever taken a ball away from a child? They don't like that.
right on.
Exactly.
Any more on curvature?
Fine.
Or axial rotation, for that matter? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
Fair enough. You can't have a fundy sun distance without an R value. Any evidence of Earth radius? The R value. Spherical. A presupposition thereof. Any evidence of that?
no evidence of it.
It's weird though, right? There's no evidence of a measured R, but there's R all over the place. There's R in a calculator that gives you curve. But they didn't have the R in the first place, so how did they get the curve for the R that they don't have? It's weird.
The R is the basis of the religion. In R they trust. That is their presupposition. Without the R we wouldn't have a sphere. Well, yeah, the first presupposition was that we were on a sphere and had a spherical R value. So, yeah, that is the presupposition. The R value. All hail R. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten... Go on. Go ahead.
So their presupposition is a sphere, so we must have an R value, but we don't see any curvature.
That's correct. We also utilise the very same R value to hijack the effects of perspective and reify a position we call the horizon, an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground, into the edge of a model reified based on the R value. Circular reasoning, that's all they ever do. Shout out to Validation Boy, who was the first to say this, to my knowledge. Every single globe Earth claim to be proof starts with the presupposition that you are on a globe. Shout out to Validation Boy.
Right. I think it should be rebaptized as globular reasoning.
Hold on, John and Merlin, which one? Whoever.
What's that?
No, John was talking and then Arvin said something. So, John, go ahead.
I got into an argument with someone the other day that tried to say we're not able to see enough of our world, and then that's why we can't see curvature. So he's pretty much making an argument that Earth has a bunch of flat spots on it, like a Dungeons and Dragons dice.
So he's arguing for curvature that he can't see.
Yeah,
Where's the
It just has to believe it's there because it's so big, and he just believes it.
Let's just get it straight. The model is set. The way it reconciles itself with the observations in the sky. All of that is set in stone. This horse shit about having dimples like a golf ball or the Earth being absolutely enormous, it's just bigger than they've said, it's all crap. it being a sphere is a spherical presupposition, circular reasoning, and the sphere they describe is absolutely set. There's no takebacks. There's no, oh, it could be a bit bigger. It doesn't work like that. It is the sphere they say and nothing else. And the sphere they say is merely a presupposition of the sphere they say, based on an R value. So let's just get it clear. You can't have any takebacks or modifications. That's set in stone. That's the religion. Heliocentrism is what it is. Not, oh, it's going to be a sphere the size of Jupiter in a presupposition that you've got a Jupiter that's ginormous, a little dot in the sky that we see at night time. No, all this nonsense, Earth being bigger sphere, no, that doesn't work.
Well, to be fair, it doesn't work in the sense that it'll take away their entire mechanics of the heavens supposed to be outer space out there. So even if they take giant Jupiter presupposed globular Earth, they'd still lose space because that wouldn't match anymore.
Precisely. It's got to match with what they say their sphere is for their model to match with all the observations that they tie them in so tightly. Now, looking for cracks in that particular aspect was what we did in 2015. It's pointless. We're not living on a model. It's a presupposition. It's not proven. We don't live on a sphere. So reification of horizon into sphere Earth model based on R value, all that crap is exactly as it sounds. A fallacious reasoning for a religious belief based on R. It's simple as that. And Arwin's absolutely correct. You can't start modifying that version of their reality based on their presuppositions of a sphere Earth. They've tied in what they claim it measures to the observations. Doesn't mean that suddenly because they've matched it up nicely, we suddenly live on a sphere. That's nonsense. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
They really never did get beyond just the imagining of it with all the paintings in the old encyclopedias.
They can't even show curvature, and they want us to believe there's something in the middle of a presupposed sphere. Give me a break.
I mean, that would only be about 4,000 miles down, right? I mean, we've
gone 8.
We've gone 8, so almost 8. So just give it time. Just give it time. Get there.
Just time. Okay, I'll take that as my moment to move on. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundies who believe the sky is a vacuum?
No.
The most absolute death nail to their argument is in that question. Can you read it again?
Is there any evidence for all the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe the sky is a vacuum known as outer space that you can have the gas pressure that we all breathe without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon to be pressure?
I'd like to make a shout out to that video out there. It's called Metabunk Debunks Themselves. I'd like to make a shout out for that video.
Your video. Subscribe today.
Like Paul shouting out his own video. Shout out to Paul shouting out his video.
He's going to say who, where, what, why, when, all that sort of stuff. Most importantly, who and where. What's the channel called?
Paul Hall.
Tenth Man.
Hang on. First of all, Paul was shouting out another video from another channel.
Oh, it's not your channel.
No, it's my channel.
Tenth Man. Would this not be a good time to bring up that other gentleman's question from before the show started?
Yeah, but let Paul get his shout out first. Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's good.
I'm done. I've already shouted it out. It's out there. I'll post it again.
No one heard it.
I'll do it. Let's just get this done with. So subscribe today. Paul Hall, exactly as you would imagine it's spelt. Go and subscribe. His video is a debunking of the Metabunk gas pressure without a container model, which shows the gas would fill the space under basically all parameters, as would be the case in regards to the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy would increase, exactly as displayed. So in those models, you lose all gas to space. Yeah, that's what happened if the sky was a vacuum, right, Paul?
Yep, the gas would be gone. And even the globe Earth model itself admits that we're losing hundreds of tons of gas to outer space every year.
Yeah, we'd lose all of it if the sky was a vacuum. There wouldn't be a losing a little bit. The gas would expand in all directions to fill the available volume. And the available volume would be outer space. And we wouldn't have any gas. But we do, debunking the notion that the sky is a vacuum. It isn't. Any more for any more? Go ahead, Highlander.
Well, Highlander wanted me to rephrase Rune's question because Rune only had 30 minutes here. Do you want to finish housekeeping and then we'll go there? I think it's more
Yeah, I'll rattle
appropriate
through
if we
them.
do that.
No worries. Any evidence in the entire history of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics of a viable hypothesis?
We're still waiting for it.
Hello and no.
Hey, Flatzoid. Any scientific
Leaps of
evidence?
logic.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yeah. Of what?
Gravity.
No.
You know what it is before you can make scientific evidence.
I think that's it. That concludes the housekeeping.
Dave.
That's where you guys make.
Go ahead.
Well, John?
So you guys make it too hard. You're expecting like proof and stuff. Like how are they ever supposed to, validate this if they got to prove it?
Scientific method.
It would be dead
Damn
easy.
us for wanting proof of their claims.
It would be dead easy.
Damn us.
If it was a ball, it would be dead easy to prove it was a ball. Like, really, really easy. Now, I say, it's really easy to prove the Earth's flat. It's obviously and observably flat. Now, you can't say that for a ball. You need to presuppose an R value, reify the horizon into an Earth curve edge, and then claim things are being obscured when you exclude all effects of perspective and use feet and inches and meters for things that are getting smaller into the distance. Now, I don't need to do any of that as a flat earther. Earth is obviously and observably flat. Go out and observe it. Get your own view.
Well, you got to throw in 18 years of indoctrination on top of that too.
Yeah, that ain't my problem. I've broken my own. If people want to succumb to their own Stockholm syndrome, then that's their bag. I'm not going to try and talk them out of it. If they love their oppressor so much that they want to defend a religion that's untenable, that's their bag, not mine.
Well, don't
A lot
people
of people get to that point of where, remember, Owen Benjamin was talking about.
Oh, we lost half your sound.
I can't be. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you just lost half your audio for a second there.
Yeah, somebody called me. Remember when Owen Benjamin was at a point where he was saying, I can't be a flat earth person? I think some of these people, they look into it and they get to that point and then they make the hard U-turn. Like, nope, I'm not doing this. That's just too crazy. And I'm going back. Abort. Because it's just too hard. And other people will just keep going. Like Owen Benjamin. I want to give a shout out to Owen Benjamin. He was awesome at the Flat Earth Conference. He was hilarious. He did his thing on that. So, yeah, shout out to him and everybody at the conference. But yeah, it's awesome.
You're essentially describing taking the blue pill. You're being offered a choice. The reality of the nature of where you are, or a nice comforting lie that everyone else seems to believe is true. And you go, yeah, I'm just going to go with what everyone else thinks is true. And you bosh down that blue pill. But the problem is you're still going to have the memory of being offered the choice. And in many cases, after taking the blue pill, the people we encounter are those people. They then rebel and fight against it at all costs.
I distinctly recall the time when I knew there was no Santa Claus. Up until that time, I really enjoyed that fantasy of Santa Claus. It was nice, every Christmas. But then when that day came, when I realized there was no Santa Claus, it was a fantasy, a good story, it's warm, made that time of year very exciting. It didn't do anything other than the fact that says, you know what, that's a quaint story, but I'm not a child anymore. It's not real. So what's the difference if a baller could see the 8 housekeeping questions and say, you know what? I'm through being a kid that's going to be deceived by the world, the globe, the R value, the presupposition. I'm going to believe my eyes. I'm going to believe reality. How come it's so hard for that, but it was so easy for Santa Claus? They're both fantasies.
I think it's because they go home at night and jerk off to like Deanna Troy or something.
It's because they want to solve it real.
It's about whether you want to look at your reality or not, right? Well, I remember being a kid. I remember everybody being excited about Santa, and I was just like, yeah, that's all cool, but it doesn't make sense to me. I didn't have a chimney. I didn't have all these. Like, how is that happening? I was trying to science the shit out of
You don't
Santa
have a
when I was a
chimney.
kid. I was, and it's like, it just didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. And then when I realized it was a lie, I was like, okay, so that's why it didn't make sense, because it just wasn't true. And that's how I felt when I got to Flat Earth. I was like, it literally took me 5 minutes, because I was like, this is why my entire life I've been looking at the world that I live in, and something was off. Like something
So
is wrong with the world, you know?
So based on what
Yeah,
you're
did I think
saying,
so?
Chocolate. So based on what you're saying, Chocolate, if it doesn't have a chimney, no Santa, and if it doesn't have curvature, no globe.
Yeah, right? Because I mean, I remember asking my parents, well, how is he getting? You know, I'm sure every kid has asked, you know, how does Santa get in your house if you don't have a chimney? And they always scramble for some silly answer like, oh, it's magical or something. I don't even remember what their answer was. They probably didn't even give me a good one, you know. But it was just like, that doesn't make sense. And then he's got to do all the like, what kind of speed does he have to do to get to every kid in one night? Like, what? This doesn't make
Depends if
sense
he's
to me.
going, if he's traveling with the spin of the Earth or not, whether he completes it in one night.
Trust me, I wasn't even thinking
Santa
about that
Claus
at that
is pretty
point.
Coriolis.
He goes,
But yeah, you get
he goes east to west and takes advantage of the faster flight time.
There you go.
There's your news
Hold
article.
on,
Santa
hold on.
Claus takes
Let me
advantage
get
of
this right. You're
Coriolis.
talking about a big fat guy that watches kids all year round and then goes and sneaks into houses.
Exactly.
That seems kind of wrong,
Yes.
doesn't it?
Somebody ought to be arresting
Yeah,
his ass.
it's an overt lie told in parallel with the heliocentric lie. And yeah, it seems wrong on many levels, I agree.
The good one, Highlander. Anyway, Rune.
I won't say that because the fat bastard doesn't visit Scotland. He must hate the Scottish.
But the best
Scotland's
thing
full of
about the
assholes.
Santa thing is where he lives.
Exactly.
That's how he sees everything.
He lives right under Polaris, right?
Yeah. With the elves and the
top of the
candy
world.
cane and all that good shit.
If Polaris was directly above the North Pole, where are all the pictures and videos of somebody standing at the North Pole, looking directly 90 degrees up, and there's Polaris? It's always off in the distance, like on an angle. It's never directly above. There's no pictures or video of that existing.
Yep. It's a good time to bring up the question Rune asked that Highlander reminded me. It was the same question I asked you, Nathan, the other day about why they, in the definition of the first law of thermodynamics, they say isolated system and why they put it in there when they know it's not real. And he wanted me to ask you that question.
Who to?
Hello?
Who to? Who are you asking the question to?
To you. Rune wanted me to ask you the question. He only had half an hour on the show today and he's gone already, but he's going to listen again.
Oh, okay, I'll be honest then. I left the room to talk to my wife about the fact that we were discussing Santa. So I didn't actually hear the question.
Well, at least you had the presence of mind to come back.
Yeah, I am actually running the show.
My God.
I wouldn't have told you if it wasn't humorous.
Yeah, it's all right. So Rune asked, why is it that when he looked up the definition for the first and second law of thermodynamics, I think he was referencing the first, why it says isolated system if there are no isolated systems?
It's a simplification of the law in the same way. We've said this about 10 times on the last 10 shows, right? Am I going nuts? So in the same way you don't have any ideal gases, but you still have gas law. It's a natural law describing nature. The second law of thermodynamics is also a natural law describing nature. But so it's understandable, they simplify it with a system called an isolated system, which is a generalization so that you can make it applicable in more circumstances without all the caveats attached. Now, in reality, there are no isolated systems. They don't. It's not an existing system that something's going to be applied to. But if you're going to suddenly assert that because it's described with an isolated system, that this law of nature doesn't apply to nature because there are no isolated systems, then you're moronic. Now, if on the other hand you're just asking for a description of what an isolated system is, well, it's completely isolated. There's no transfers at all whatsoever. Well, that system doesn't exist in nature. But that's how they use it to describe that law. Just the description of what is applicable throughout nature always. Just like gas law. There are no ideal gases. That's not something that's real. You can't go out and bottle up an ideal gas. But that's how they describe it to make it more simple. Hope that answers your question.
Can I ask my question real quick, Nathan? The one that I asked yesterday.
Yeah.
Where did they discover these laws to begin with? Just like to know.
Within nature. Why would they need laws? Well, to describe nature.
With the isolated
I see it as just kind of another shortcut for them to try to debunk the entire notion that the second law of thermodynamics debunks the vacuum of space. Because they'll look it up real quick. It says isolated system, and then ask us, well, do you guys live in an isolated system? And when we say no, they'll say, oh, well, then this doesn't apply to you guys. It's no. Doesn't really work like that.
Yeah, it's a justification for special pleading. Oh, well, second law of thermodynamics says it's only applicable to isolated systems. Well, my Earth's an open system next to a vacuum, so I don't really need to pay attention to this law of nature. Yeah, it's a law of nature.
Yeah, and the first time somebody said that to me was a few weeks ago, and I noticed it. I was like, that's interesting. I bet you that's an angle they're going to try. And sure enough, we've had a few of them come in. An Orthodox came in the other day and said the same crap. So they have talking points. They're very coordinated with their talking points. One guy hears an argument from somebody else, and then all of a sudden it's all their arguments, and it's which is understandable in some ways, but guys, you're following bad arguments. Okay.
Well,
John.
Well,
hang on.
Just 1 second. I'm gonna shout out a super chatter.
John.
Sorry. Hold on 1 second, 10th man. So shout out to Julio Pabon. He says, I predict Highlander will convert to our side. I presume he means flat Earth. He will awaken soon. His eyes will open up soon enough. It's flat, and we all know it. Well, I personally wouldn't divine his thoughts, Pabon, but there we go. Thank you very much for the super chat, Julio Pabon. Really appreciate it. I'm sure Highlander, feel free to address that, mate.
Yeah, John has been trying
Hold on, everyone except Highlander.
There's a shot.
Hold on, everyone except... He's just had a super chat. Someone's paid to address Highlander. At the very least, he's going to get a chance to say something to that. Go ahead, Highlander.
10th man, do you think this would be a good time to tell Nathan about my evidence for mass attracting mass?
I heard it earlier. No, thank you. No, let's not have any descriptions of fat women being attracted. And no, thank you.
John has been trying to get a question in, so if we can allow John to talk.
Sorry, you're very quiet, John. I'll turn you up each time, though. Go ahead.
I remember a few months back, I've been watching the show now for like over a year and a half. Great show. But Zanuck tried to say that the universe was an isolated system, but then turn around in the same breath and say black holes exist. So I don't really see how he fits that together in his mind. It can't be an isolated system if it's...
Right. Yeah, the whole place is Narnia. Space isn't real, it's fake. It's a violation of several laws of nature. So when they get into black holes and isolated systems that are space, yeah, all cods roll up because space isn't real. Yeah, again, you can get into how the snow works in Narnia if you wish. I just point out that Narnia is not real. Same goes for outer space. The sky's not a vacuum, so let's not concern ourselves with what some tosser in some observatories pointed out in the sky and said, that's a black hole, that is. Yeah, right. I don't care what you've declared about your vision of the sky. You're not going to tell me what the heavens are, I'm afraid. Not anymore.
I think you said it best when you used the word transfer, correct?
Who are you talking to?
You, Nathan.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I said it best. Yeah. Don't know what you're talking about.
No, isolated system. We have wouldn't allow for transfer to happen.
Oh, right. Yeah, an isolated system has no transfers, right? Okay.
But we live in a system that has transfer, so it can't be an isolated system.
Well, yeah, but but in their logic, therefore, second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply. That's their logic they're applying here.
Well, the only debunking I've gotten so far on that video, and it's not even me they're debunking the guy that created it, was that the only way you can have gas to be maintained is you have to remove all the heat from the surface. So there can be no heat at all for the gas to be maintained by gravity. Don't think about that. Is there any contradiction there? Does that seem have reality involved with that at all? That you remove all the heat?
David Dallas.
Well, we have heat loss because the available energy is being used, and it goes from one form to another, but that's through work, and you have loss while that's happening. And so that's the second law, and they know that.
No, you've missed his point. I think he's saying they're describing it reaching zero. Is that your point, Paul? I don't want to hijack it too much if that is your point. Feel free to reiterate it. They're saying the energy goes down to zero in terms of the removal.
Right, that's okay. Okay, Lily's decided to jump in. But yeah, they have to remove all the heat, all the energy from the molecules to keep it around the ball. That's the only way they can do it.
Right, an impossibility.
So they have to say we live at an absolute.
The gas will still fill the space. Entropy will still happen whether or not you remove the heat or not. So still don't understand their point.
Right on, you can see it modelled. Shout out again to Paul Hall. Subscribe today. Single-handedly smashing these nonsense models. In this case, pseudo Mick Westian 2-space.
Well, an absolute zero cannot be achieved. If you can't. Particles have innate kinetic energy in them.
Thank you. I was waiting for you to say that, Paul. Someone else did try to steal your thunder, but I didn't acknowledge them. Yes, precisely, Paul. Well said. Good point. Should we have a moment's silence for the loss of outer space for anybody who's watching as a newcomer?
Yeah, I'm still mourning that.
Alrighty then.
That was the toughest thing for me to let go
chant.
of. I was into astronomy for over 30 years. You know, talk about taking somebody's ball away. I'm still crying about it.
I don't disagree.
You can't lie to yourself, though.
I agree, Jibby, but just before discovering the nature of reality and how fake space was, I'd filled my hard drive with all my favourite movies, many of them being space-related. We still, on this show, reference Aliens. You know, it's just, you give up quite a lot. Red Dwarf, my favourite TV show, based on a brief history in time. So...
Sorry, I'm not giving any of it up. I'm just not going to imagine that somehow could be real in some way eventually. That's the only difference. It's still there.
Those shows carry your imagination, though, to new horizons, I guess you could say, of space and whatever. My imagination can't ride that horse anymore. I watch it in a different way now, like you do. like I think you said, it's like looking at a painting now.
Right.
You don't think the painting's real, but you still enjoy it.
No,
But
I
there's
can't.
also an art to creating the painting in a specific way, and that is something you can approach it with. So even though the total suspense of disbelief dream is broken, doesn't mean that there's nothing to enjoy there,
Right, it's
even within the conceptualizations.
miles more difficult though. I can't remember what I was watching. Some
In the
fantasy,
beginning, yes.
some fantasy movie I was watching, and that, you know, when they arrive from space, suddenly the suspension of disbelief no longer works. When it was just like crazy Middle-earthian, like you described earlier, then you can almost get away with that suspension of disbelief. But when I was a kid watching Red Dwarf, you don't know that it's based on a book by Hawkins. You don't know that it's the fantasies of it's actually the writings of A Brief History of Time that's been worked into the stories of Red Dwarf. So it is just literally one man's fantasy transposed as reality into another man's science fiction, when all of it's nonsense from beginning to end. But you sold it as science fiction, a comedy that's based in a place that's real. Now, I've talked about this many times. You're suspending disbelief when you watch NASA. Your ideas are such that your wiring through programming and indoctrination was to suspend disbelief. Now, what that actually means is when you see Superman flying around the globe, well, you appreciate, because you've suspended disbelief, that Superman isn't real and men can't fly around the globe. But you have that image suspended in your mind when they tell you that a tin can fly around a spherical Earth. And you're softened up to that idea. And in reality, you just don't appreciate that when you're told or given that or shown that idea of a spherical Earth in a sky vacuum, that you are simply suspending disbelief. You don't realise it, but that's precisely what's happening. And they'll tell it you. You know, they will label the geometry pseudo. Well, that's overt. This isn't subtle. They're almost shoving it in your face that it's not real, that it's a model. They tell you that overtly, it's a model. Well, what's a model? It's not reality. But when you learn about the heliocentric model, the way it's paraphrased by useful idiots, the people teaching it, is that it's actually real. Now, they don't even appreciate that they're indirectly lying when they say that. I've done it myself. I remember it with my niece, looking up at the sky, pointing at the lights and telling her what they were and how they worked in the heliocentric model, cementing forever the idea in my niece's mind that the physical bodies and their orbits are her reality. And it's not, it's just a model. Now they're telling you that. They're making it plain. They tell you what a reification fallacy is, they define it very carefully, and they tell you that it's just a model, and Michio Kaku will tell you it's guesswork. They're not hiding this stuff. But it's up to you whether or not you choose to suspend disbelief. If you choose to believe that the sky is a vacuum, that's on you. I take no responsibility. And neither, in a way, should the people who brainwash you. Because they've told you it's a model. So it's only your own fault if you don't appreciate the words being used and the language being used. Now, in the pre-show, we talked about the word view, or views. And that's a word that has two meanings. An idea, your perception of something, versus how it actually looks, what you see with your eye. And that little juxtaposition has been toyed with and tinkered with to indoctrinate you and to leave you with this idea, a suspension of disbelief. You'll never go to space. You're not going to fly around like Superman. You're never going to sit in the ISS. They're all narrative stories that are spun out based on a model, based on them saying 10 to the minus bazillion we don't know about in the universe. So they're not hiding this stuff. They're quite overt about it. It's just down to you whether or not you choose to reify a model or suspend disbelief about a sky vacuum. These are your choices. So, blaming people and getting angry about it when you figure out that you've been deceived. Have you? They told you all along it was a model. Anyway, I'm done with my rant.
Very astute.
If you go to Master B, I was looking at the word pseudo the other day, because we always have this discussion about pseudo and why they would call a force pseudo force. And when guys are in here trying to argue for this, I mean, if somebody could pull it up and you just look at the words that are similar to pseudo, I mean, just the definition alone is bad. But then all the words that, you know, the conjunctive words, like it's fake. They tell you that, right? I mean, look at all these words: imitation, artificial, sham, phony, pretended, faux, deceptive, misleading, assumed, contrived, affected, pretend, insincere. Come on, guys.
Imagery.
You're falling for the banana in the tailpipe.
Just to connect the dots
Nonsense.
here,
They
for
tell
chocolate.
you that.
But just for chocolate. So pseudo is just been read out by chocolate. Pseudo-Ramonian four-space is length, breadth, depth, and time. Now, space-time is measured in pseudo-geometry because time's a concept. Space isn't real. They're making it plain. They're telling you it's fake.
Blatantly. By putting a word that means literally fake in front of the word that you're supposed to pretend is real. And people are like, yeah, that's okay. It's just an adjective. Well, what does that adjective mean? It means fake. It means sham. Why would you put a word that means sham in front of a force? Does that mean it's a sham force? A fake force? Like, come on, guys.
They use the word nominal constantly in these SpaceX launches. Nominal, one of its definitions is in existing in name only.
In name only, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's down to you, the individual. I'm talking to the audience, obviously. Panel members, feel free to disagree. But it's up to you. You make your choices in this life. It's very short. And if you choose to be deceived because you don't recognise that you're being deceived, in a way it's your own fault. Because, like we've just pointed out, they're not exactly hiding it. Now, shout out to John LeBon, who it wasn't the first to point this out, but he certainly did it in the same way I'm praising it now, when he talks about the moon landings. Just have a look at it. Just go and watch the videos. That's often what I say. I don't argue the moon landings. I find it tedious. It's so overtly fake. It's filmed on a set. It's obvious. That's what I learned how to do at college. You know, I learned how to do set design and stage lighting and sound and videography and editing. And you look at it and go, that's on a set. There's no two ways about it. So what's the point in arguing about it? My argument is go and look at it, it's on a set. Now, JLB's spin on this is to say, it's obvious it's on a set. It's got a backdrop. Now, if you can't see that, or you're so in tune with the TV that your perception of how things are is based on and only on your suspension of disbelief. You're watching soap operas, you're watching documentaries, you're watching the news, you're watching all of these things that require you to put yourself into a place that isn't real and suspend disbelief. You're constantly at the movies, you're constantly watching sitcoms, all of this stuff that makes you work in a certain manner. So when they just don't tell you that this is not real, well, they don't do that with the soap opera either. There's no disclaimer at the beginning of Home and Away that says, by the way, all things depicted in this soap opera don't actually happen, these characters aren't real. And nor do they say it at the beginning of a NASA shoot. They use words like nominal, as you've said, for SpaceX. And they'll show it you clearly being filmed on a set, with absolutely impossible things occurring before your very eyes. It's just down to you whether or not you swallow that blue pill or not. If you look at it like I do and go, well, that's filmed on a set. So there's no point arguing about the whys and wherefores of the mechanics. The same applies to our debunking now a few years later. You know, it's a few years on since I've even considered these subjects. I literally don't give them any consideration because I don't watch TV. I don't see SpaceX. Because why? I don't want to spend all day pulling apart the nonsense. I know it's nonsense. It's just down to you whether or not you choose to gobble up that nonsense and then regurgitate it to someone else like it's your reality. Nah, that's just TV.
Well, they've been given full permission to operate on the really is level only if need be or only if they choose, right? Because somebody like George Musa could talk about, oh yeah, when we're working at the really is level, but we don't necessarily have to work at that level. Oh, okay. Thanks for the option. Thought we were in here for truth, not just you could just do what you want, think what you want, and it just comes true. That's nonsense. So thanks, George
Hey,
Musa.
Nathan.
Yes.
Rocco,
Nathan,
you just don't understand what is means. That's all. You just don't understand it.
Nathan, Merlin just sent a text. Are you able to unmute me? My server crashed. Merlin wants to be unmuted.
Yeah, I've only glanced at it because everyone was off mute. You are now, Merlin. Can you hear us?
Thank you very much.
No worries. So, as there's been a slight gap, I'll do a few shout-outs. So, shout out to Lily, says, Mario knows it's flat. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate your support. Mario knows it's flat. And double shout-out to Dave Rakia Gafford. Give up your ability to be deceived. Seek the truth. Then the creator will reveal itself. Rakia life. I'm not going to attempt to read your second one because it doesn't show up on this screen that I can actually read and is legible. I can't read it, it's too small on the projector. But if someone else does super chat, that's not my way of encouraging somebody to give me more money. I will read it, Dave Rocky. I can see you've smashed the super chat twice. For some reason, I just can't read it on this screen. So thank you very much indeed for double hitting the super chat. Tenth man, you're flashing, but we can't hear you. Is it just me? All gone quiet. Did I say something? Oh no, looks like Discord's got issues. Alan B's now flashing. Right, I'll just leave.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Check, check. I thought there was an issue. I was just about to start restarting things.
No, I thought Merlin wanted to ask a question or something.
Yeah, Merlin want to say something?
Just wanted to off mute.
Yeah, he said his server crashed. Can you put him off mute? So I thought maybe he couldn't, ask a question until you did something on your end.
That might have been the question.
Yeah, I heard Merlin speak a minute ago.
Yeah, he thanked me for coming off mute. I think he just wanted the ability to be able to talk should he need to. It didn't have anything pertinent. Maybe he did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That might be the question. That's why I said it.
Okay, I'll go on mute.
You know, Teth, you can take people off mute yourself. Just so you know for later.
Yeah, I didn't know. All right, we'll save it for later.
Yeah, when a new
You
guest
have
comes,
the power, 10th.
I'll talk about it in the after show, so there's not shop talk in the live show, but yeah, I'll explain later. Don't necessarily just automatically take people off mute by right-clicking and unmuting them. But yeah, you can.
Is Alan B a woman? He, she?
He, she?
Look at his picture.
Who are you talking about?
Alan B. Look at his picture on his icon in Discord.
Could be his wife.
Who cares?
Brenda 2.0.
If the shoe fits.
The Cinderella shoe?
Yeah, the really big shoe.
This started off with Jibby saying that he missed the astronomy aspect of his life that he'd spent quite a number of years engaged in.
Most of my life, yeah. Dedicated school to it, money. Anything that had the word star in it, I bought. It was devastating. But I couldn't walk away from being true to myself. Yeah, you can't live in a fantasy. You just know it's not real. How do you enjoy it?
A channel recommendation. So, a person with a similar story would be Crow 777, CRROW777, and he's got a very nice, I think it's a Meade telescope and a nice streaming setup, and he's probably most known for his claims of a lunar wave. Nevertheless, he's just looking at the sky with a different take on how the world presents itself and presenting it to his audience, along with his opinions, obviously. But it is interesting to see people who've gone through the transition. He's not very overt about being a flat earther, but I've even got a clip of him basically admitting it, describing the Earth as a plane if he was pushed to describe how it was. So Crow's definitely a flat earther. Nevertheless, he's obviously gone through a similar thing to yourself, Jimmy.
Yeah, and it's not a matter of just losing what you thought was reality, but you're losing a passion, a love affair with a concept, with a thing. You lose everything, and it takes a lot for people to be able to do that. But for me, it was I didn't have a choice. Like I'm proving to myself it's flat, and I can't. What am I going to do? It's flat. I wanted space to be real, and just because it's endless possibilities of exploration, but that can still be had here, I think.
I love that it's not real.
It's scary if it's real. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a horrifying, hostile environment, and pretty much would make us stuck here forever. That's the other concept of the globe: is everything's been explored, and all wraps right around, no place to go, nothing to do. Depressing. Kind of creates like an unconscious depression.
I don't know.
Prison Planet.
I kind of disagree personally, if I may, for a second. Because back in the day, even with outer space and all that, I never really went full on the total atheist bandwagon. You know, I understood the philosophical angles to it, but I just didn't agree because I felt it was there, so many leads. And I don't know, I just don't have this I always saw space more like as the next level kind of thing. Yeah, it's echoed on, of course, by Alex Jones these days still. But like it's like a challenge because we're safe on Earth. And it's mostly the people that keep on telling us, oh, it's not safe, oh, it's all going to be destroyed, a giant meteor's coming past us. Those are the annoying ones. I don't like that. I don't like the space conceptualizations to be abused like that for fear. It's not necessary.
I totally agree. My eyes were always trained on the near-Earth asteroids from space weather and these other sites, and you'd see the one coming in red, and you're just constantly paranoid of getting hit by a space potato. It's crazy. It's so manipulating.
Right.
Hey, Jibby, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Now that you realize the pseudo nature of space, you have 30 years of looking through telescopes and all of that, more than all of us, more than likely, put together. So when you were viewing the lights in the sky under that scenario, but now you know that scenario is pseudo, how would you describe the lights in the sky with your current understanding?
Well, the one that just really sends me for a loop has got to be Saturn, because Saturn has an appearance like of spherical, because you see the way the shadow is cast upon the rings and such as it's tilted, and that does give like this visual illusion of spherosity, as where the other planets are just colored dots. They're colored lights. They're circular, doesn't mean spherical. It's just circular, and topography does seem to move on Jupiter and Saturn. But other than the rings of Saturn, I don't really see it as spherosity anymore. And I've never seen a spherical star. You have too much atmosphere to pierce through, and it's just dancing light. It's like a ball plasma of dancing light. Never, ever seen a spherical star. But, well, these guys up in space, they're getting pictures of the stars through the atmosphere. Like they're beyond that atmosphere where it just creates that distortion. But no, I don't know where the claim of spherical star holds so true when no one's ever seen a spherical star through a telescope.
Isn't it
What say
funny
you
that
about the
traditionally
moon?
stars are not even drawn as dots? No, they're drawn as stars. That's how we know the shape of a star. Isn't that just hysterical?
Yeah, and there's definitely more wandering stars than we've been made aware of up there. There are stars that seem to park and then just start moving. There's a lot going on up there. We're really in the dark. We're in the well, it's a lot we have to relearn, I should
You
say.
ever looked up there with any night vision type equipment?
No, I never did the night vision thing, but those are very interesting, especially for like the UFO stuff, mostly, I think.
Guys, I have a general question for all of you and also the more experienced researchers concerning celestial phenomena. Like that Saturn thing, you know, I've seen a couple of video shots of that. And I was always so weirded out because I only see that ring presupposedly around the planet. I only really ever saw it in one way. You never see it from above, like a ring surrounding the planet, not crossing over it or anything.
Yes, we never have that view of it.
Exactly. So that doesn't really make a lot of sense. That it's just like the moon always facing us perfectly. Again, the same type of sign.
So to find out the conclusion to this discussion, you'll have to stay tuned, but only if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream, as this is where we bid the Nathan Oakley live stream audience farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in, smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Also, of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. As I say, stay tuned if you are watching on Nathan Oakley 1980, as this is where the after show begins. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
So, Nathan.
Yes?
How big of a hard drive did you replace your other one with?
2 terabytes.
The capacity. I'm sorry, say again?
2 terabytes.
Say again, over?
2 terabytes.
terabytes.
2 terabytes.
That's 2,000 megabytes.
I remember when servers, when like the only thing that had a terabyte was like a big server.
Right.
Way back when I was into computers in 03.
No, I remember hard drives being sold in megabytes.
Yep.
Yes. Or I think, it was like a big deal to have a 10 gig hard drive.
I remember having 8K of RAM.
Yep.
I had a 5 megabyte SCSI hard drive in my Amiga 1200. It was a great
SCSI.
weapon.
SCSI drives. I remember SCSI drives.
Small, effective.
Worm drives and zip drives. All good fun. Very, very fun.
Anybody remember reel to reel?
Of course. I remember reel to reel.
I remember when that first computer came out, 256. Atari? Was it Atari?
Yep, servers used to have reel to reels. Amazing, isn't it? You can still see them in some old early 1980s things. I think there's some in Superman, as we talked about it earlier on the show. I'm sure there's a scene in Superman or Superman 2 where they cut to a scene where everything with the communications goes crazy and you see all of the reels going.
I think in War Games, too.
Yeah, I had a 128K. The old Spectrum.
Yep.
Hey Highlander, have you got an answer for me for how you can have gas pressure next to a vacuum without a container yet?
Oh no, it's AR.
Hey, Sleepy Murray.
Tony's here.
Why is it we're not pushing this guy for an answer? Come on, we've been asking him for days.
We like it when you do it.
Come on, Highlander. What's the answer? How do you have gas pressure next to a vacuum without a container?
I'm not doing this dance with you again today.
So does that mean that you concede that you can't do
We're
that?
not
Then?
going to like ruin it.
Is that a concession? Does that mean that you can't do it? The concession, that isn't it? Come on, Highlander, just admit it. You can't do it.
There's also 7 other ballers in here that you can pick on.
What you do?
I only want Highlander on that one because he's so sturdy with it.
For the fine details of his experiment, but he won't give them.
Segue. Hey, Quantum Eraser.
See, there's the distraction.
Yeah. Hey, Quantum Eraser, can you hear us?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. So, Anthony, I got Arwin to play your video on his show today.
All right, okay.
Thank you for doing that, by the way, Arwin.
Yeah, so George claims that he had nothing to do with Bill Miller. Brian Mullen, he had nothing to do with ringing anybody about Brian Mullen. Yet earlier in that day, or maybe the day before, he admits that he rang the licensing authorities to, quote, check on his credentials, which you can do.
Later that day, it's the same conversation. He said it.
No, I think...
What are you talking about? With Nathan?
No, I think there were 2 conversations. One was the day before, where he admitted to... Nathan Thompson that he had rang, but all he did was, quote, check the credentials of Brian Mullen. That was the day before. But then on the day in question, when something happened inside, there was a bit of handbags and glad rags. I'm not quite sure what happened, but I think Nathan Thompson's hat got flicked off his head by M. Stone. And there was a challenge by M. Stone to go outside and fight. No, Nathan went outside to fight, and M. Stone wasn't there. He'd ran. So he picked a fight.
Really? That asshole showed up there just to do that.
Well, I don't know if it was just to do that, but I mean, it's clearly not there.
I believe it because I've run into that guy in some of these chats, on Discord. Like, he seems like the type, so it doesn't surprise me, but it's just sad, guys. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, just the point that George says one day that he rang the licensing authorities just to check the credentials of Brian Mullen, which you can do online with an online cursory search. So you don't really need to ring them. Makes you wonder why he really did ring them. But then the following day, when challenged outside by one of Nathan's crew, he said, I had nothing to do with contacting anybody about Brian Mullen. Well, he admitted it the day before he did.
We already went over this in episode, what was it? 330 something? We already went over all this back then, where he admitted it, right? And then we knew he was on Earth Discussions with Quartus and the rest of those knuckle dragon window lickers. This is old news. What in the world?
Well, it might be new for some people who just don't know things like this happen.
Don't you guys remember this?
Of course.
I do.
Of course we remember. We remember.
Of course, I was there. We were there.
We have so many memories of this, we're trying not to remember.
The point is, in spite of the fact that he's been exposed, having run his lips on erectile dysfunction 2.0, about the fact that he did this, discussing how much fun it was essentially putting a man's career at risk, he then later goes on, and he's done it in the last 24 hours, to flat out deny ever contacting anybody about Brian Mullen.
He did it in the same video, Anthony, earlier. I don't know. Do you guys live around power lines? All right. Listen to the video again from the beginning with Nathan Thompson. It's not the day before. It's the same time.
That's you being told, Tony.
No, we're expressing our disgust at a disgusting liar who goes after men's jobs. Hardly a laughing matter, Alan.
Tony can't even
Alan, this is junk DNA.
And
Hey,
unfortunately,
John.
Oh, they want their argument back. You friggin' clown. I can't believe I'm even talking about this. Well,
John,
what
let's
is
discuss
DNA,
the
Alan?
98.5.
What is DNA, Alan?
John? John, do you
Yeah.
want to
Alan
discuss
doesn't answer
the
questions.
No,
98.5 not used? Let's do it on
no.
air.
1998. You clown. You heard of the encode? Let's start here. What is DNA, Alan? What is its
Let's do it on air.
constituents?
He's not going to answer you, John.
He
It's
doesn't
an
even know.
onion.
All he's doing is
Yeah.
parody.
I'm
Parody
pretty-
nonsense, right?
Can't hear him. Can't hear him. Can't
Yeah,
hear you,
right.
John.
Let me ask Alan whilst you're here, Alan. Why is it that you presented to your fellow comrades a private message that I sent to you, twisted the context of it to make it look like I was trying to dox somebody, when simply I was demonstrating some other point to do with what her claim was? Why did you misrepresent the interior message, the private message I sent to you, to make me look
Didn't
bad?
misrepresent you. You were busy trying to dox her, my friend.
No, I wasn't. I've never doxed anybody, and I don't have any intentions of doing it, and I don't encourage it. So,
You had the
so why
account
did
of
you
it.
misrepresent what I'd sent to you as a dox?
It's taking it as an opportunity to throw the same mud. So, just as I've said many times, you play with pigs, you're going to get dirty.
Yep.
You're the pig, Alan.
Yeah, and thanks
Point.
again for doxing me, Alan. Mr. Complainy Pants.
Are we? What's your name
Yeah,
and
Alan,
address?
you're a little bit weird to be talking about people doing shit, because I've seen some of the weird shit you've done, especially with
me?
Arwen. So, yeah,
Yeah.
don't judge too tough, buddy.
Exactly. His name was public on a website. So was his Twitter account, not hidden.
Yeah, that's what
So, there you
doxing is. Rounding up documents that are available to the public and then expressing those exact same public documents to a completely different audience with different intentions. Dox documents, that's what it means. So what you're saying is my justification for doxing him is that I doxed him. That's your justification. I doxed him because I found public documents. Yeah, that's what doxing is. What kind of fuckwit are you, Alan? That's what doxing is.
He did it because he could.
Yeah, because he found public documents. That's what doxing is. He just thinks that saying and describing what doxing is a justification for his actions. An asshole.
He doesn't know what it is, Nathan. He doesn't know what it is. He's a complete
Alan.
moron.
Yeah,
No,
he
Alan.
did it. He did it to me.
Arwen showed the website himself.
Get his ass out of here.
Afterwards, after you freaking doxed
Let's get back
me.
to that
Yeah,
complex
that's when I
onion of yours.
thought, okay,
Yeah.
okay, I'll just go full in then. Because I don't have anything to hide about myself.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who did tune in on the Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!